some really great leaders, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of good military people. Like
Yeah.
don't get me
Oh,
wrong,
for sure, right?
fantastic, right? But
Most of the
it's a
great models of my life were,
top down
yeah,
organization, right? And when you have somebody
yeah,
like Trudeau with a 22 caliber mind in a 357 world, as I say,
yeah,
it's not working out for him, right? Because
yeah,
he's not a leader, right? Charles de Gaulle, when he had in the 60s, they had giant riots and everything else. People hated him, but he went out and he met with them and he quelled because people respected
right,
that. They heckled him and they give him, but this guy's hidden because he's not a real leader. We don't have real leaders anymore. We have
yeah,
puppets that are controlled by Katie Telford and everybody else who's in the background behind Trudeau.
or Klaus Schwab and his
Well, that's
minions,
the highest
right?
level, right? Klaus
Yeah,
Schwab, World Economic Forum. They got Crenshaw down in Texas. He's got the
yeah.
patch, ex-Navy SEAL, but he was there. They got
Oh, yeah,
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 yeah. They're all there. They're all graduates. Klaus is very happy how deeply he penetrated. But remember, his
yeah,
globalist view is to call the world.
yeah,
He's thinking he's doing good. You got to have compassion for that, right? We can't
yeah.
hate your enemy.
We are actually live again.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, yeah,
great,
cool.
perfect. So yeah, you
Finally
can't.
got it sorted the fuck out, but I did record all of your guys' conversation.
What I find
Sorry
interesting
for
about
interrupting.
their
No, it's
idea
okay.
that they think they're doing the best thing. I
In
don't
a
know.
psychopathic
I mean,
way, though. Yeah, it's
yeah.
sociopathic. It's psychopathic.
but
to
it's
do
also, I have this theory. I remember I used to work for a place, and there was the guy who owned the business was kind of, he had the money, right?
that.
And everybody tell him yes, because if you told him yes, you'd get the money,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And they ran the place to the ground. And I've seen that a lot of times where you get just the yes men. There was something recently, the big coal shortage they had last year in China, because of the way they do things in China. It's, we got lots of coal, they know they're running out. Well, we're running out. They're better. There's coal. Oh, there's sure. And then it goes
Well,
to the next
yeah,
one.
that was.
Oh, there's coal. And next thing you know, they're you end up with, well, we're boycotting all Australian products except the coal. Right?
Well, yeah,
Right? Like, so that idea that
but they're running on an
surrounded by
illusion,
yes
right?
men.
It's all
Yeah.
about an illusion,
Yeah.
right? Like you look at the Forbidden City and you see the dragon holding the world in his claw, right?
Mm,
And that's the idea. It's
Yeah.
controlling. It's controlling that, and they control what we can manufacture and consent, what we can get people to believe, right? Because what people,
yeah.
it's that old movie. What's that one? Denzel Washington, one of my favorite actors, but he's a cop, and then in L.A. or whatever else, but he's the bad cop.
Oh, I never did see it, but I know the one you mean.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. It's all that kind of stuff. He's reading the newspaper. And he's like, this is all
Yeah.
just lies, right?
Yeah.
They're letting you know, right? They're saying
Yeah.
it through their programming to you.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this is all just lies. And I saw that often in the military, right? Again,
Right.
it's not necessarily lies, it's information.
Mm.
But they know how the mind works, so they're going to get you to interpret it, right? Because how do
Yep.
we interpret? Oh, so go back to the holographic image, right? So in the piece of your brain here that I've really studied is called the reticular activating system. So this, yeah, right? Because right now there's at least 4 million things happening around me.
Mm.
But my brain could only process 4,000 things at any moment. That's fast.
Yeah,
That's
wow.
fast. Faster than any CPU on the planet.
Yeah.
Right. Again, it's talking to our intelligence. But how does it know what to pick? Which 4,000
Right.
is it going to notice? Well, that's based on your belief system. So what you believe is what you'll observe
Mm.
to be true in your reality. So as I walk into the bank and I know the bank is just full of nasty people, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to watch the person that's drinking the coffee and he's slurping, and that person that's angry and making this face, and I'm going to
Yeah.
notice everything to reinforce my belief system, because there's 4 million things coming on. Where I walk in with a totally different belief system, that the bank's full of friendly people, and I walk
Yeah.
in and I say, oh, look, he's having his coffee, and this,
Yeah.
she probably got some kind of gas pain or something. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm seeing a different world,
Yeah.
all based off my belief system. So people in charge know this. They know
Yeah.
this psychology. So they control it, right? So they control what they want in the belief system. This is why they have these
Yeah.
archaic kind of, and not that I'm against any religion, right, in general, but they have a religion became a form of control instead of spirituality, right, in general.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that, like, you think the civil
Don't ever
rights
do that.
movement, right? They got paper.
Yeah.
They got power from coming together, meeting in prayer, and coming every week,
Yeah.
and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So never knock anybody's institutions or what they need to get through. But at the same time, it's we got to give back. Again, it's about taking back that control, right? Because
Yeah.
it's even if you believe in Yeshua, it's you, him, right? But now you got the
Mm.
church in, you got this guy, you got the priest, you got the
Yeah.
pedophile going on, and all this kind of stuff, and this institution, this bureaucracy. that's also invested in money, so the other religions can't be right because they're competitive
Right.
businesses, right? So
Which drives me nuts.
it's all been taken away from us, and our freedoms and our governments have been taken away. We got to take our power back. We got to take the power back as the people. You know, Liechtenstein, again, as I said, is a model where we keep our taxes locally. We have local governments. We hire our doctors. We know our doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
Stop sending our money off to Ottawa so they can give it out $1 billion of special interest programs where everybody gets
Yeah.
paid. Trudeau's mom gets $500,000 to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, everybody's starving and businesses are collapsing. It was a hard year for me last
Yeah.
year. That business
Yeah.
collapsed. I'm a small business.
Yeah, man.
I had one employee finally, and I was just 2020 came and it slammed it down, and I was just like, all right.
Well, that's what I find interesting. You know,
Holy shit! Look what walked
Oh,
through the
Danny, what's
fucking
up,
door
man?
here.
Oh, good to see you. I know the pawn shop I used to work at. That's where I got to know Denny.
Good. Yeah, Todd.
This is Todd, Denny, Todd.
Hello, everyone. Well, come on in. We're just talking about the world and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah,
man.
we're all over the place. But
yeah, having fun though.
Yeah, it's,
Jeez. We were. What were we talking about though? We were control systems, religion, yeah, all this kind of stuff.
I was sharing the new live stream, so I wasn't really paying attention to what you guys
Oh,
were
yeah,
talking
okay,
about.
yeah,
To be
yeah.
honest with you,
Yeah. No worries. Well, the old spirits, we're all important.
you are an
You're
important
yeah,
person.
we're all, man.
You're the mad scientist, my friend.
Speaking of shredders, there you're a shredder.
Oh, look at Shreddy McShredderton over there, Shreddy McGee. Bake it
Yeah,
till you
so-
bake it with a pentatonic scale, right?
We were talking about religion there for a second and different bits of it. There's religion in music because you'll have that. That's something I've always
Spirituality in music.
So Denny knows me this actually ties into what we're talking about from like music, right? Way back. And I worked at a pawn shop and I used to play in this death metal band at the time, right? That was my first Fredericton band, or my second one, anyways. So there's still all these guys I know from then who knew me as like a metal guy. And most metal guys tend to be metal guys. And that's kind of generally not so much anymore. But back then, you were a metal guy, but I never was.
You were metal, and that was it.
I would play in a metal band and I would listen to him.
Dare you?
But when I was in the death metal band, I was also in a salsa band,
Nice.
right? And then I had all this whole Latino community in Fredericton and some other people through the Multicultural Center who knew me, had no idea I played death metal, and I'd sing in Spanish and
Well, that's it.
You
Like,
know, right?
How much do we not really know about each other? Like when you meet
Yeah.
somebody, you don't really know. We are multi-dimensional beings, right?
Yeah.
There's so many facets. And that's why I believe nobody's ever purely evil or purely good, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like we are so faceted, and we are our experiences. We're the sum
Right.
of so many different things. And
Yeah.
perspective and truth is often inversely proportional to perspective in your life experiences. As we said, because your activating system, your belief system might be entirely different. I've been going through as years of psychology as I went through, and that was one thing I was talking with my psychologist about. Was just that one thing I've noticed with her is that we have different belief systems and
Right.
a lot of things, and that can make some difficult. Like there's leaps that you need to make a journey certain ways to
Right.
why people would do something the way they do or why they think, right?
Yeah.
And it's entirely different depending. I've been all over the world in that too. But one thing I've noticed about all the world, one thing I've noticed is that people
Yeah.
are people generally. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I've had that experience, and whether it's the back mountains of Afghanistan, on the border of Pakistan, in Bosnia and Africa, anywhere else, is that people are people. You know, through the states, Canada, down
Yep.
the Caribbean, and the people of the world and who we are is really generally good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like generally people
We all
are
sit
good.
around a table, and some
Yeah.
people are way more into the meal than others. And
But we have this, percentage on either side that kind of distracts its
Yeah.
attention, right? It was actually when I was an officer in the military, I used to say that because when I started in the ranks, I'm like, one day when I'm a captain, I'm going to know all my men. But I couldn't, because when I was in charge, I knew all the really good ones because they were always doing, and I knew all the really bad ones. 'Cause
Yes.
they took all my time, right? Because
Yeah.
they're always in trouble, and it's like, oh, was
Yep.
something else or something going on, and I couldn't get the guys in the middle, right? So these are the
The
difficulties.
gray
in the
men
world.
kicking around.
Yeah, but we are multi-dimensional beings, right? So going back to whether it's sledding slasher,
Yeah.
right? Because I love rock. One of my secrets, I love hip hop.
Oh, yeah. I grew up on hip hop too. Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So But I like country. I play blues and jazz, but I also like very spiritual music too, right?
Yeah.
Who is that? Sam, John the Revelator just clapping a song.
Oh yeah.
So,
So
my
cool.
coach, he's just clapping. And here's a song, right? There's no guitar, nothing else, just straight acoustics of just the clap. John the Revelator, John the Revelator. Who's that riding? I say it's John the Revelator. And just that rhythm, right? In the hands and stuff. You look at the chassis of music, right? Where's it come from? So you got this indigenous mix of rock and roll, right? It comes from indigenous, the gospel, and also the African music at the time, right? And that merges together.
New Orleans,
that's
perfect
it, all
example,
down,
right? Yeah,
it just all comes together, and then you just have this exponential of music. It's
cool.
it is really.
It's one of the things I got into here. The reason I brought my harmonicas in the slide is I always kind of fool around. I had this racks. I got them literally 20 years ago. Never played them. But during all this, I went from playing mostly every weekend, and I did a lot of legions and stuff like that, and old backwoods bars and that sort of thing. And I did play in a jazz band and a swing band, which I don't know if I'll be doing anymore because they all kind of went a bit on the squirrely side. And I don't know if I could. It's funny, I don't like to judge people, but at the same time, it's like I think that time has gone.
Well, this is
you got to move on sometimes, right?
Yeah, this is it. You got to find your new tribe, right?
Yeah,
and that's really it. Is that frequency you carry in your heart, and just don't judge the old tribe for making their choices, and if you look at it from a yoga perspective, right? So there's different ages, and as we move and we transition out of the Kali Yuga, right? Which is the dark ages, and we move to a new Sat Yuga, there's going to be a lot of changes on the planet. We can see this through history because we know time is not linear, it's rather cyclical, right? So we're moving into a different frequency. So those that are going to be they're going to have the hard times, and what's going to happen to them, we need to have a lot of compassion because they're going to go back into a lower frequency of the Kali Yuga, and they're going to go through another procession. The equinoxes, 25,492 years on another ride in samsara. As they go through the reincarnation. And those who were awakened at the time for the energy will be ready to move into this new age, right? And the new age, people, again, it's patience, right? I keep telling my children, when you're 70, you're going to look back and you're going to remember me telling you these words, how beautiful the world is now, right?
Yeah.
Patience, right? It's not going to happen.
I'm having patience now.
We might not see that.
4,000 things we can focus. There's 2 conversations going on.
Yeah, I don't know, but we might not see it, right? But blessed is he who plants the tree and never sit underneath it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. That's what this is. It's more than a revolution. It's about an evolution into a new age, a new way of being, a new paradigm of taking our power back, right? That's what the age of Aquarius is, right? And so, I've had to cut my circle in so many ways. I lost a good friend today because he slammed the truckers, and I just had enough of that. And I was just like, well, listen, man, because you're entitled, but that's your tribe now, and this is my tribe.
I had a revelation this morning thinking about it, because I've seen a lot of, again, talking about these people I really liked and respected who have just totally cannot see it. And I think one thing a lot of people who oppose this really have missed is if we lose this battle, this protest, this right to protest, we will lose every protest.
Yes.
Everything. The people who are, I know one lady who's super passionate about counter protesting the Ottawa protest because the noise and it's loud. And of course, the irony is, well, if you guys all joined in, this thing would be over in 3 days. But the idea that she doesn't understand this counter protest they want to do, they're going to lose that. And that's gone. And she was saying, I remember, Wounded Knee was a protest and this was a protest. And not realizing, well, if we lose this, there's no more Wounded Knee. And you can forget about the Wet'suwet'en solidarity, and you can forget about, the Cupid guys.
That's
they're going to lose it all.
They've been scared through the media, right? Because they had the bad orange man down in the States there for a while. That's just terrifying.
So therefore, these guys are all them.
And so that's why he smeared them right away that way, right?
Yeah.
And if people are in that, either in the fear, the anger, the apathy, and we go through all three, like just continuously.
Yeah.
you know, and remember, sugar leads to apathy too, right? That's why they give so much to us.
Ah,
Yeah, they want us apathetic, not caring, right? Give sugar, 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 sugar. So
yeah.
more and more sugar.
Yep.
So, but
Jeez.
yeah, and that's where these people are. And so the best thing to do is just to send them light and love. So what I often do,
Yeah.
one of the meditations I do, is I become a flower.
Okay.
And I visualize like roots growing into the ground and then becoming a flower coming out and then fragrance leaving me. And people like that, just sending my fragrance over there. So that way it just kind of heals
Yeah.
whatever relationship I have with them.
Yeah.
Because we are different and we have seen things differently. And who knows? As I said, I don't know. Even maybe
Yeah.
I made the totally wrong choice here and they would say that to me. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I believe I'm taking a stand like yourself, brother, that we're taking a stand here.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, I'm standing for you too. Because I want you to be able to protest. I want
Yeah.
my kids to be able to protest and stuff. We like this goes back, and we got to remember we're always just a generation away from tyranny.
Yep.
And it's not just necessarily this evil plot and this kind of twists that the far alt right can go, but it's just sometimes general human stupidity that gets us here,
Yeah.
right? Like we
Yeah.
don't like we're pretty stupid as a species.
Well,
at
it's kind
times,
of
right?
like I've had a few conversations with folks.
Yeah, it's the same bird needs both wings, anyways. Right?
Yeah.
People in charge have created a left and a right as an illusion for us. But reality is if we're all right in the center looking at them going, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Well, there is a lot of that, and that is, and as I was saying, we were talking about when I was traveling the world. Most people I found are generally good and in that center,
Yeah.
and want to work together, want to help each other, want to love each other, want to do anything for
Yeah.
you. In a lot of
Yeah.
these countries, they have nothing, and they're so happy too, which is crazy, right? Where everybody here is depressed. We
Well,
have
and all the
everything.
vitriol I see online, I also know like all those people.
That's what they mean. You'll have nothing and be happy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's what they mean. Yeah,
They've already figured it
yeah,
out.
they figured it out. So
Yeah.
that's
But that's the genius of it, right? Is because that's a true statement, but that's not what they really mean, is it?
no.
They mean most of us will just be subservient to them, and they'll have all kinds, because we've all seen it a million times, like with the politicians saying, "Oh, well, we're going to lock like in England, oh, you can't get together with the families," and then they're all having parties and da 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 da. Next thing you know, the
rules
mandate,
for me,
right?
or
Not
rules
for
for me,
thee.
not for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
But that's the elitist kind of attitude that we've.
Yeah.
Because our governments have been taken over by these elitists, both
Yep.
on the left and right, right?
Yeah.
And they think they know what's best. And I honestly, you got to understand, they're doing things with what they think is best to do good to help you. And if you can understand it from that perspective, even though it's psychotic, as I said,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. You got to look at it and say,
You
okay,
don't have to be.
but I don't need your help, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then that's hands off. I mean, Ronald Reagan said, right?
I love you
The
just
scariest
who you are.
words in the world is government. We're here from the government. We're here to help.
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly.
Yeah, because as soon as
Yeah.
it is, and I mean, I worked for the government, and as I
Yeah.
said, there's so many good
Hang
people
out,
in the
you can do
government,
whatever you want.
but it's a bureaucratic
You get
system.
to
It's
be
become its own beast. Of
Yeah.
the system, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
It needs to be
Run by AI and algorithms. A lot
For
of
example,
times.
this idea that we need to cull the population to me is nonsense. And the idea
we
that-
don't.
it's like saying, well, you got to chop down your apple tree. It's too big. No, you give it a trim.
No,
you
the
know.
world population it's a myth actually.
Total
the
myth.
overpopulation.
Total myth.
We could there'd be enough room for every
All
person
right.
on the planet right now to have 1 acre in 1 acre of land in Alaska.
Yes,
we'd
I
all
saw
fit.
that.
Yeah, we'd all
Actually-
fit. See, we got to change the way we've been doing things, right? Our food sources, everything else. We got to have home
Yep.
gardens.
What are you yipping about over there?
And really look at what we're doing. We also got to look at the ways we eat,
Okay,
and it's all about re-engineering. But right now, what they want is us living in cities, ordering from Amazon. You'll own nothing and be happy. They want us in the metaverse eventually, so
Yeah.
we'll eventually be happy. Then,
Just like the
finally-
Matrix.
Yeah, well, that's it. They're on the stacks.
what they're out
They're in
their
these
way for.
condos
And
in
it makes
Toronto.
sense. The more metaverse, the more virtual you are, the less you'll want to go to a garden. You'll just go to your job, or maybe you'll just stay in place to your job, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll just be, it's about, so I spent a lot of time in the corporate culture as a youth and then recently in the car business. And it's about creating the perfect consumer, and that's what they want. Because for these elites, see, one thing I don't share is the optimism that they think they're doing what's best for people. I think that's not true.
Well, there is some evil behind it.
There's,
And- but
at the top level, it's
Oh,
about
there's some insidious evil there, and
Well, and
that's
there's
a
also
battle
this-
that's been
this
going on for
cancerous
6,000 years.
trap. The cancerous trap that, well, I heard somebody, it was a description of like the something that a lot of CEOs fall victim to is you're in the company for a short time. You just got to generate the profits, get your money, get as much money as you can, and get out, and then maybe shift over to another job because you can't reinvent the wheel while you're there. So all you got to do is just work with the way it is, and just because the idea that the CEO is going to come in and I'm going to just change everything and it's going to totally reinvent and the company's going to be. It's like, nah, it's
How
never.
many OCs did you see?
Reality,
try to do
it can't work, and they know it.
Yeah.
So they come in and they just go, okay, well, I'm just going to work it the way it is, and I'm going to make it happen, and then I'm going to get my cash and get out. My kids will be happy. So there's this sort of, is it maybe total? I mean, I'm sure there is some malicious folks because there are some people who just don't give a shit. Just like in the car business, there's some people who just want to rip people off and get as much money.
Yeah,
my
well,
success
it's
was
that
never trying to
psychopathic-
do that. Yeah.
Psychopathic.
But when it
people.
comes to the food thing, so one awakening I had was I remember my sister's farm, and they came back and they had a little hobby farm at their place, and on 1/8 of an acre, I mean, like double the size of this garage, the amount of food they could produce was shocked me. So when you think, forget about a whole acre, if you're really got a good green thumb,
Well, yeah,
you
this
just
is
work
what-
on one.
This is
you
what
know,
school
like-
should be about for
Yeah.
our kids. See, because this is what I've
Yeah.
been talking is that we need to reinvent our school system. Our school system right now is
Oh, crazy.
ring a bell, stand up, wear a mask. go
1 plus
outside.
1 equals 5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But when I really thought about it, from 4 years
That's
old
Denny
to
math.
12 years old till 14 years old, even you could be just focusing on like stuff like that, gardening and home stuff that we need, that they need to learn. Because really, all the math I learned from grade 1 to grade 13 in my time,
Yeah.
you could really teach a 16-year-old in a year.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Really focused, yeah.
So really, why are we focusing so much on this kind of stuff to train these guys instead of learning them to learn about their bodies, about yoga, about breathing, about
Right.
connections, about growing things, about how healing, about helping, about community,
And
stuff.
also really
And it-
focusing on what you're good at.
Yeah, well,
like, if
that's
you're
it,
not
learning their
super
skills.
athletic,
Yeah,
Well, then, remember when I was a teenager in Germany, they had
Germany is
they-
great.
they had
for
the
that
apprentice system sort of thing. And I'm sure it has its difficulties too, because you might get crammed into something that,
Yeah,
maybe
you don't
not.
fit necessarily at
Right.
16, 14,
but
right?
still that idea of a little more letting people explore their aptitudes. So that was always the way I taught music is I get them the basics and then I start going, well, what do you find out real quick? What are they good at? And encourage it.
Well,
And
that's it, right?
and they always go for it, right? It works great every time. It's just like, and that was the success I had. And I wasn't educated as a teacher, but it was just, when I'm with a person, you focus on them. What do you like, And I had one kid, I remember it was, we tried guitar and he just wasn't really into it. And then we tried though for a while and it just wasn't happening. He wouldn't practice. Then we got him on the bass but he loved music, it just wasn't kind of happening. Then we went back to guitar and I used to always have a piano in the studio. And then one day we sat him on the piano and he came back the next week and had it all, now granted I'd been teaching music for a couple of years. So, he did have that thing, but that was his instrument. And then it was like, oh, okay.
Again,
You're
it's
a piano
frequency
player, dude.
match, a
Yeah.
resonant match, it's energy match.
Yeah.
Our body has a lot of intelligence too, right? So
Yeah.
all that stuff's going to resonate.
Yeah.
And it's stuff, again, that we have a hard time quantifying, but again, anecdotal evidence from your
Yeah.
experiential evidence, right? And
Yeah. Another
No.
neat. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was going to
Well,
say,
you guys are cutting each other off. I'm going to give a shout out to the veteran farmer who gave me this wicked hoodie there the other day.
Who is the veteran farmer? I haven't met this guy yet.
Well,
I
his
see the
name
shirts.
his name is Lloyd Farmer. He lives
Okay.
actually just up the road there on
nice.
the Bryson. And a buddy of mine, Jesse Bergotti, a guy that I served with, a really good dude. I was talking to him over the last couple of days because we've been having little bit of issues with one of our guitar players. He's in the hospital right now, not doing so
Oh,
well,
geez.
so we got to keep an
Bummer.
eye on him. But went over there for my first time yesterday. It was a great experience, wicked energy. Loved the shit out of it.
Sure.
It was like sitting around stores,
Yeah, but-
which I haven't done in like 10 years of sitting around Army stores. If Army guys know how to do anything, it's hold up a wall at stores.
yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's all
okay.
about, I haven't held up a wall
Yeah.
in
What
fucking
is
10 years.
stores? What is stores?
Well, stores is where you keep all your weapons, your rations, basically everything.
Okay,
All of your little knickknacks that you need. That
It's
isn't
like a
you.
series of cages where everything's locked in.
Okay, I got you.
Everything, like everything.
So everybody's got to
We
go.
lock the
eventually
troops
for
in there
something.
too, the savage beasts.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are, right? So they go back there.
The
hold up
CQ is
walls.
what they's called, right? The quartermaster or whatever.
Okay, and that's where everybody get together and shoot the shit type thing.
Well, yeah, as long as you keep your hands clapping. When I was the CQ, because I didn't want any batteries go missing or something.
Yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
Watch those guys.
You got to keep your hands out of your fucking pockets.
Yeah.
The sergeant major will walk over there and jack you up. Why
Yeah.
you got your fucking hands in your pockets?
You
You
came
get
through
to hold up
stores.
lots of walls.
That when I was a quartermaster and troops come through
Yeah.
stores, I'd be keep your hands clapping because I don't want to hear anything. Because it's like they'd be like, oh, look at these new compasses or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Of course, man.
'Cause there is a rule though. We were taught that like in recce platoon and stuff like that. If
Yeah.
it's shiny, we should take it just in case we figure out we could use it for our mission.
Ah,
right?
right.
That was always like because we always said they always hold the good equipment somewhere else, but we'd have
Right.
fun with that too, right? Because I remember when I was a quartermaster, somebody would come up and they'd be like, "Yes, I was sent here for a box of frequencies, right?" Which is, it doesn't really exist, but I'd be like,
Blinker
"Give
fluid.
me a minute,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
blinker fluid or
Yeah.
anything like that. That kind of
Nothing
stuff, right?
greater than sending.
I'd
the
go
private-
back and I'd find it or something that
Yeah.
looked like that could. Oh yeah, I found this heavy kind of amp that was like a one of those old kind of power converters from the 90s.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that for when you go to Europe kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
gave this kid the box of frequencies, right? He ran back with it. So I get the phone call in stores. They're like, holy shit, because they're all laughing that he came back with a box of frequencies. Now he's coming for Skyhook and Shoreline, right?
Oh, the
And I'm just
Skyhook. Oh,
you know,
jeez.
it's just that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's that kind of environment. So the camaraderie that you'd have
Yeah.
in that environment for soldiers. Yeah.
When they don't
That's
have a
cool.
roll of crypto, they send them over to SIG's platoon for a roll of crypto.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
all these kind of things to get people going on, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's especially when you're new, because I joined at 17. You're new and intimidating. And You
Yeah.
got this card. You got to go find all these places on base to clear in,
Like a deer caught in the fucking headlights
Yeah.
too. They smell you a mile away. They're like,
and you're walking around, so
Fresh.
yeah, and I'm with this guy from Torbay, Newfoundland, so I can't
Oh,
understand.
geez.
I couldn't understand a word he was saying. We were roommates, right?
Oh, man.
Oh yeah, the first month he wanted me to move the TV. I had no idea what he was saying to me. Right, what was going on? Good friends to this day. He's actually
Yeah.
local here, Eddie Norman. But yeah,
Okay,
we're walking around trying to clear it. He's oh yeah, bye, we're over there. I'm like, what's going on, man? Anyways, because he'd been there before. But yeah, that's kind of that.
Especially
stores
back
about-
at even like that, like 20, 30 years ago, the Newfie accent was stronger. Like my parents
Oh,
are
yeah.
Newfies, right? And TV,
Take
the
light off the
internet's
line
changed
nearby.
things, but man, this young fellas from around the Bay, man, it was different. How you doing there, Cock? What's going on, buddy? And
Well,
yeah,
that's it, right?
"Hey, cockers."
I came from Toronto and I was like, dude, we're separated by common language here.
Yeah,
we're like
yeah.
roommates, right?
Big
It was
time,
pretty
right?
funny. So,
I've been here so long that my sister thinks that I have a Newfoundland accent.
yeah, when I go back
it's
now,
funny,
right?
yeah.
'Cause
But
you
I crush my
could-
words like a New Brunswicker. I talk like this and I crush my words.
I always say
Like that was like
the,
fucking
the,
native, wasn't it?
the maritime trick is
I'm going to YouTube jail.
speak English like you're speaking French.
What are you saying over there,
So just
Mr.
connect
Clean?
everything and just slur it all in.
Well, that's
Go
it,
grab a
right?
microphone.
No, well, Irish too, right? Like when,
Yeah.
when I went over there, it's my family. They use the rhyming slang as well, right? So
Okay.
stairs is apples and pears, right?
Even
Well,
in Ireland, they still
yeah,
that's
oh,
the
yeah,
Cockney
yeah,
thing. Oh, I didn't
well,
know they
yeah,
did
'cause
that.
it's a bit of a gypsy connection, but they'll look,
Okay.
they'll say like, look at the bottle on her, right? And I mean,
Oh, yeah.
bottle, glass, ass, right? So it's a
Right.
triple rhyme. And they'll have all these talks. And the drunker you
Ah.
get and the more Guinness you get into it, the more fun they're having with me. And I had
Yeah.
no idea again
Yeah.
what the heck anybody was talking about, And then I ended up in a fight because it was Ireland. And then everybody
Yeah,
bought
yeah.
me more drinks and it was good. Everybody's happy.
Oh man,
It's
I
all just
always
yeah.
wanted to go to Ireland. I got
Yeah.
to Scotland and England a little bit. And
Scotland too. Yeah, it was nice.
that was a trip. I was telling the boys I went to Roslin Chapel one day and did Edinburgh, and yeah, man, it's like if you grow up as a
that's fun
maritime
Scotland though, right? Edinburgh and stuff. When I went to
Oh, man.
Scotland, see, this is the thing with the military that people don't understand. We never see the good parts.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
you go to some
I
shitty
went
old
out to-
base.
You stand on a fucking cliff in the rain.
Oh yeah, no, we
fucking see
parachuted
it.
into the Outer Hebrides, right? So Ben Becula,
Okay.
like little Scotland islands where they still speak Gaelic only up there.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it was crazy, right? It was just not the Scotland I
Yeah.
thought I was going to see.
Rough weather too.
The rough
I bet,
weather,
eh?
yeah. No trees because it's above the Arctic Circle. It's
Yeah.
way up there. Right? Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, that was the Scotland I got to see in the army, right?
Holy.
Just freezing and cold going on.
Jeez.
And actually,
Oh, I felt that shiver through my fucking spine when you said that
Oh,
because
yeah,
I
it
could see
was-
myself standing on the
And
cliff.
then they started
and
with
it's that wet cold.
escape and evasion exercise. So we became prisoners of war, and we thought we were going over adventure training. Next thing I know, I'm in like a human naked man pile, being going through the
Jeez.
drills before they put you in the coveralls and
Yeah.
stuff, and then it's going on. And then we got adventure training. It was cool. After 3 days of going through an interrogation, right? I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is cool. I'll be in Scotland. And next thing I know, they're giving me the gears. And it's England, so there's not the same kind of rules as here, right? Like I mean, they stripped us down naked.
Oh yeah.
They
yeah.
put us on the ground and they had sandbags on our heads and they named us little piggies, right? And
Oh,
little piggy wanted to squeal, and if you didn't, they hit you on the head, right?
Oh god.
With it, yeah, that was
The
that.
Brits. Eh?
Oh yeah, part two pair of rough.
I used to
Sounds-
work with
Sounds
that
like
guy.
an adventure.
What did he? I forget what he did, but he was military, and when I was living out in Alberta, he was from Birmingham, I think. He had a real unique accent. But yeah, just tell me about his basic training.
Right
and
from
the
Sabbath country.
There's something that the boys had to go through, and it was a cave.
You watch those
and
cables,
it was way in
Flynn?
the middle of Buckfoot, right in. Yeah, it's like people think it's
Watching
funny.
you.
Well, you've been there, so people think, oh, Europe and Scotland and England and Ireland, it's just people cramming on top of each other, and it's till you go 10 clicks that way, then it's fucking wilderness for whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
But there was and they had to climb through some cave, and it was some
yeah.
section called the Gorilla where you had to actually go underwater, and you'd get stuck, and you had to cram yourself through, and
Oh
you
yeah,
know, like nasty stuff like that.
Very commonly there when we were talking, we would have that exchange. And actually, I was a sergeant on that one, and we'd gotten over. And the sergeant I was talking to, he fought in the Falklands, and he said he knew more people killed in their training than he did in the Falklands
Wow.
War, right? Because they do a lot of very dangerous close live fire and that, and a lot of different things. They have two classes of kind of people there, right?
Right.
Which really confused them when I became an officer because their officers speak different than the men.
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Well, even like we say parachuting here, we're jumping without equipment. We say, hey, let's go have a bare ass jump, right? That's what we call it.
Yeah.
They call it jumping clean for tea. Everyone will go, yes, we're going jumping clean for tea today. And I was like, what? Clean for tea?
the
You know?
class system there. I remember driving with our buddy. We were going to. I think this is when we were leaving.
Sounds
He was
proper,
driving us.
lad.
He was driving us to Heathrow, and this guy,
Very
this
ready.
Range Rover with this big ivory pipe and full of smoke, driving super fast past everyone, texting, and he's like, "Oh yeah, probably some fucking lord," and
Yeah,
it
well-
probably was.
Well,
know?
they do have that,
They're
right?
on a whole level of
the Brit
swearing.
pairs themselves, though, excellent
Yeah.
soldiers. I love working with them. They were fantastic, especially the guys from two pair, as crazy as they are. But what happened there too? They had these ranks that came out with us. They were called fannies, right? That's what they called them, and
Yeah.
they were basically captains, and they were lords' daughters and stuff like that. Daughters of the
wow,
lords
yeah,
and that,
yeah.
and they were given honorary ranks. And they were captains, but they basically worked during. It's a hereditary thing because during the Second World War they worked the communications.
okay.
So they had
The
some
switchboards.
Yeah, switchboards and everything else, and they were
Yeah.
called the fannies.
Wow.
But yeah, when they saw me too, I remember they're like, "Oh, look at this! We have the colonials here with us." I remember
Oh,
that,
God.
right? And that's their mentality, right? And I was like,
Wow.
"This
Look
is
at the
what-
colonial
this
bastard
is
over
in the
there.
90s
Give me some
sometime,
tea,
right?
Randy.
Oh yeah, the fannies. She's so excited.
Randy,
The
where's my
colonials
tea
are
for the
here.
colonials?
Now to tie it back a little bit, speaking of this is interesting that we're talking about England.
Oh, you
and
got your
UK,
tea over there, don't you,
And
Danny?
I want to ask you something about Ireland because I've always wanted to go, but it was about the hidden people. But before we get there, I was actually listening to a podcast. A fella was talking about different Sasquatch things. And what he does is people would call in and tell him the stories. And it was mostly Americans because he was an
course.
American guy. Well, it was an American guy.
Oh,
And so a lot of stuff going on down there that I never heard growing up because I grew up in BC. So it's, the Kokanee commercials and the
Yeah,
Mug
well,
Wump
exactly. Yeah.
right? And there's a lot of stuff out there, and even in California and Oregon, but you don't think of, like, I didn't know until recently about the skunk ape in Florida. Well, they got their own things, but one was
you just adjust that.
he
however
talked
you
to a
need.
guy who he was in England and who fell into it. He was researching apes or something. I think that's what he did. He researched primates, and they started finding all these stories from England, but people wouldn't associate them with something like a Sasquatch because they didn't have those stories. They have the Green Man going back in legend, but all these a lot of modern ones, and people saying they would see, and they're like, well, it looked like an ape because they didn't have any other description. And he said, well, how could there be? People would think, well, there wouldn't be.
Well, yeah,
how could there be an
it's-
ape in England? But he says, you got to realize how many parks, how much, and in Europe, and the way all through Europe, they don't camp like us. Like they
No,
they go to a
definitely not,
little
no.
very manicured place, and it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but they don't go off the path. They go on the path, they go to the little site, they go home, they take the little drive, you take your picture, you go. Where here, you never know. This guy, well, they're going hiking out this guy. Oh, this guy's going bushwhacking, and this one's going kayaking. Like we just
Yeah,
camp a little more rugged here. So the idea that and there's all kinds of these stories. And he ended up doing a book on it. And now the guy's like, yeah, there's got to be something. It's just too many stories. Like they're not being confused with other things. And then he tied it into the Green Man and how the Green Man.
We have
A
the
lot of
giant
those
steps
about-
in Ulster, right? Where the giants
Okay,
used to live
yes.
too. So it's the same thing that the giants as well, and then you have the
Mhm.
city, which are the hidden peoples as well. that
Okay,
do that,
okay.
Right? So it's different levels of fairies, right? There's different in the Fey realm,
And that was going to be my next question. Okay.
Yeah, because you got to look at. We'll take it from a kind
The
of
wings on.
a traditional, say, First Nations perspective, right?
Yeah.
Again, 7 upper worlds, 7 lower worlds, right?
Oh, okay.
7 different energy fields and everything else that we are. So
777.
yeah, it's always this 7, right? That
Yeah.
we have. So there's these different experiences that they have. Just doesn't mean our concept of what life is very limited. Yeah.
Mm.
So just say that a lot of these spirits are kind of almost in a more of an etherical sort of energetic plane, right?
Mm.
It doesn't mean that they're more superior to you. That's why I tell people to be careful when they're channeling, right?
Right.
Because I was talking to you before, these souls that they left their body in a very angry, painful frequency. You could take
Right.
1,000 years, and they'll seem like they have a lot of knowledge, but they're just lost spirits, and they're not there to guide you, right?
A lot of them are lower.
That's true. A
actually
lot of
lower
them are very
dimensional.
low astral beings, right? This is why that God connection, the Creator connection in your heart, that spark of magnetism is who your true guru
Mm.
is, right?
Right.
That's your
Okay,
guru,
yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody's guru, right? On
That key right there.
But yeah, so the hidden peoples, the circles, and all that kind of stuff. It's where we got the harp from too, right? Is the legend of
yeah.
where we got the harp is actually the symbol of Ireland and not the shamrock, though it's more common,
Right,
right?
right.
But it's the harp that's on the passport, right?
It was
Yeah.
Turlo O'Carolan. I backed up a fiddler at the same time as those other bands, and I started learning about some of that stuff.
No, that's it. So my father was a Holmes, right? Which was
Okay.
actually a change to McThomas, because actually this is here as a shillelagh.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kinda-
So this was in my great grandfather's hands in the 1916 uprising.
Oh no,
And then
kidding.
so at Easter dinner, they took him outside and shot him in the back of the head
Wow.
with this in his hand. So my dad was IRA. We know this.
Okay.
I talk about this. So and he came over to Canada during the FLQ crisis, sponsored by Montreal. of
Oh,
all
really?
things,
Wow.
right? Because the
Yeah.
French sponsored him over, and the
Yeah.
FLQ going up. And my dad was actually we didn't get along. So one of the things I did to get back at him was join the army and give
Oh,
allegiance to the
wow.
Queen of all things, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm
Oh,
He's like, you didn't.
I'm
join
gonna
a
serve
Highland
the
unit?"
queen.
Yeah, I was like, here's why I stick it to you,
Yeah,
right? Because
gee.
but that was what he was connected to in my family, Catholic, because
right.
of that route. But this was this shillelagh that was
No
there.
kidding.
So
Jeez,
Yeah.
I did some years ago. I was in I forget what I was doing.
Thank you for
I was
sharing that
looking
story.
into different. It was when I was first getting into Tai Chi, and I was doing a lot of that. And I looked into. There's a Newfie guy, and he was a figure skater of all things, I think. But he was also his grandfather was a boxer, and he moved into Ontario and got right into kung fu. But at the same time, he also learned to fight and box from his grandfather in Newfoundland. I forget where it was in Newfoundland, and his grandfather was Irish, and he taught him stick fighting. And so they did, the bata, I think they call it, right? Is it?
yeah,
that's it?
because
Yeah.
this was it again. Because
Yeah.
the government took away your weapons.
Can't have your swords.
You can't have your
so-
swords or anything else. Same thing with karate, right? Wave
Yeah.
the open hand, right? The Okinawan people. My sensei was Kenzo Dizona out of Trenton.
Okay.
Yeah, he's one of the higher ranks through the world. and he comes right back from Okinawa. He moved from Okinawa, and that was it because the samurai just repressed these people and everything
Yeah.
else, right? This is
Yeah.
what I'm getting worried with Biden, like trying to get his hands in on our protests. Doesn't that make you nervous, right?
Yes.
This is the whole thing where Gretchen Wilson in Michigan saying, release the army. I'm watching what's going on.
Yeah.
If they come in heavy-handed, right? That's what the samurai people did to Okinawa, right? That's why they took
Yeah.
away people's weapons so they could.
Yeah.
So they would study in boats at 3 a.m, and that's
Yeah.
where that horse stand, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
So that
Makes
horse
sense,
stands
yeah.
in the boats, so nobody can see
Really?
them. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
nunchucks. What are nunchucks? They're a flail for cracking your wheat, right? To crack it so you
Yeah.
can separate the wheat from the chaff.
The
The
side.
kama, which I'm going to be building. Yeah, the sai was for picking up the bales of hay. wasn't
Hey,
it?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
bales of hay.
And then the kama was used for cutting. Now I'm going to actually be building some kamas.
Well, that's a
but
scythe,
they're not going
a
to be for
scythe.
fighting. I'm going to be copying some scythes and a Magna Grecia, and I've got a project for farming as well. This coming up this spring, where I'm going to get a bunch of work parties where we're going to do no-till gardens. Basically, you get a bunch of people together. Instead of having a 3-day project, it's going to be boom, we all get together and do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make all these tools, and one of the things I really want though as well is I want some nice small camas for cutting lettuce and grass and cutting around the trees. Because when you're on your knees and you're harvesting that stuff, it's
It's
nice, eh?
very important, right? This whole earthing and connecting to the soil,
Yeah.
that gardening.
You want to move closer?
It's one of the kind of healing things
Okay.
I would say. Of another path is that
Just check it.
my guru in India was able to
You seem like you're on the
help
outside
people
over there.
heal very fast
Okay.
by also so they'd be out of surgery and that kind of stuff. But he had them in the garden right away.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, because gardening itself, working the soil, working the connections,
Yeah.
the source to your food, all this kind of stuff. This is a lot of about taking our power back, right? Taking it. And I started gardening 2 years ago. I did my original protest and I did a whole bunch of stuff on this. I was avoiding everybody because the person I work with in Nepal, he used to be the special advisor, he was the translator, at the UN.
Okay.
And he worked for Peter Daglish, who we took down
Oh,
for
wow.
child. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I've been involved with all that, right? So when I was in
Jeez.
Nepal, Trudeau was on his tribunals in that was 16th of September when I was up in the Himalayas doing that kind of work. He was on his tribunals investigating all this stuff. So
Wow.
I'm very connected to a lot of this stuff and in this kind of
Jeez.
world, right? So and then we have it. I'm also we got him under the murders too, right? Because we got to think about Barry Smith there. Sorry, who was the Apotex owner? What am I thinking of? What was his name? But either he's connected to that too because he was coming out with the hydrochlorine.
Oh, the couple. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
the billionaire couple, right?
Shifty.
Yeah, and he was supposed to go to court for that March 31st,
Trudeau
2020.
was?
Yeah, but he shut down the court system, so he hasn't done it. See, all this
See, I
stuff
never
is being
connected
sleight
that
of
until
hand.
recently, right? And it was
Yeah.
like, that was always so fishy. But then now you realize, it's hydrochloric.
Oh, it's all sleight of hand
Holy
stuff.
smokes,
Right?
eh?
Durham's coming. Don't think Durham. Everybody's giving up on Durham, but this is again.
Who's
guys,
Durham?
Well, he's a prosecutor of the
Oh.
Department of Justice down in the States, and he's very
Okay.
independent, right? So he's going to be moving forward and stuff here. You got to remember that.
You can only give the people so much when so much has happened.
Yeah,
And you
we-
have to slow feed it to them.
we
You
got to
can't
protect
just
the
belt
nans
feed
and stuff
cock
like
it
that
right
too,
to
right?
them.
Again, it comes
You
from
can't.
compassion,
Yeah.
right? You just can't everybody's like, oh, I just want to told you so and everything else, and that's not part of this journey, man.
Yeah, no.
That's not leadership, right? It's not about I told you so. It's about listen, okay,
yeah.
let's walk this together, right? Let's pull people in and
Yeah,
all that.
shit
we all still have
happened.
to live together.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And that's
Where
why,
are you gonna go?
Yeah, it's like
You're
you
stuck
join
here.
Elon Musk and go to Mars, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny.
Can he, though?
There's the turn
Yeah,
the other
really.
cheek though, because you
Can
see,
he go to Mars?
you
I
see
don't know.
from this other political point of view is saying, you guys are wrong. You're so wrong. What are you doing? If you only do, they just can't seem to do that, and yet you don't see that coming from our side. It's just like, you know what? You're welcome, and when you get here,
Yeah,
you'll
well,
come around.
well, that's it.
We
right?
won't
Because
turn our back
really,
on you.
At the end of the day, right? Like you got to learn to live in that moment, at that edge of time. And I mean, people don't get that. They think the moment. No. Edge, you miss it. You try to think about it because it's at the edge of time here, right? Because right now everything's okay, right? Everything's fine. The biggest problem we have in the world right now is not
Wax
any
on.
of this. Is we have a loss of identity. You're identifying too much with your mind and your body, right? So why is that? Because you're not your mind and you're not your body. So then what are you? You are a spiritual being, right? That magnetism. But if you're trapped in your mind and you're trapped in your body, so this is one of the meditations I do with people is I get them to sit there. I'm not my mind. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I'm not even the body. I'm not my mind. I'm not even my body. Because you're something greater than that. Believe me.
Mm.
Christian doctrine, we could say Jeremiah 2:2, I knew thee before you were formed in thy mother's womb. That insinuating that you come from a spiritual place, right? I was talking to Brian earlier about Cathars and different things, and
yes.
Masonry and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if we look at that, in those theories, there was two gods. There was a spiritual God in heaven. There's the Lokeshwara, the Lord of this earth, that we also believe in Buddhism, right? You come to earth as a spiritual being. You eat stuff, you fuck, you do things, you drink. Well, at the end of the day, you got a fucking hotel bill to pay to the Lokeshwara before you can go back to the spiritual planet. And if not, you're going to be reborn into the circle of fucking karma until you realize what the Cathars used to do at a certain point. It was called consolatum. They would go off in the mountains and become an ascetic for 3 years. And they would give up all meats and all that kind of stuff and just become into yogis and everything else. And this was Mary Magdalene when she went to France. And what she brought there is called the divine feminine Christ. It was all hidden and destroyed by the church. And they would do this 3 years of consolatum.
No.
Where they would give up everything, of course.
Church wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, actually, there you can look at it because it was in 1321 when they killed the last parfait, Belbastien, Guillaume Belbastien, and he predicted that 700 years later, which would be 2021, that the Cathars and the Templars would be back. We talk about our past lives, that the connections that people have to this, and we are being reborn back to raise this awareness to this divine feminine. The patriarchy is scared of that, right? Because they're scared of that this masculine, they want their big beards and everything else. Look at the word Allah is feminine, right? Because you got to remember, and even in Islam, there's 3 goddesses too, right? There's so there's Allah, who's the mother, right? And then there's the crone and the maiden. I can't remember the names off mine, but you have Allah, which is the masculine side of the yang, and you have Alat, which is the feminine side. Muhammad didn't write the Quran. He dictated it. It's Hazrat Wali, right, which means spiritual saint, great guy. That's when Islam kind of got destroyed, is because they killed him in Kabbalah, cut his head off, right? Just kind of they did. And he's a very
That's
Sufi,
a big fuck you.
Yeah, it was a big Sufi Islam and everything else. And he's a descendant. He was a grandchild, right? But the Wahhabists and the power of the Sunnis, and not all Sunnis are like this. I don't want to say that. But the powers to be wanted to control, right? These are the elites, and the Shiites were the Iranians and nothing. They weren't even Arabs, right? They're Persian, right? They're dirty. So it was everything else. But this Hazrat Ali is a very spiritual kind of character. And really interesting, the Afghan commander I mentored in my on the Alma tour when I was embedded in the Afghan military. Sorry, he was Army. His name was Captain Hazrat Ali, right? And Wali would be the actual Wali being the spiritual.
Okay, yeah.
So Wali means like a spiritual person.
Yeah. Okay.
So and then you get into the Sufism and stuff. And when I was there with him, we'd have these fantastic talks. Philosophy.
Cool.
Yeah, because he was there since the Russians invaded '79, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I noticed one night when I was having talks to him is, here's a guy that's been at war for how many years now, and the most defining feature on his face was his laugh lines.
Oh,
Because
wow.
he knew how to live in that moment, in that now,
Yeah.
and his connection to things, and very connected to, as I say, even with all the strife going on, able to find that happiness in the moment, right? Where we're always looking for the next best thing, looking at our phones, trying to get Amazon, what are we going to order? Because we want that endorphin hit, right?
Yeah.
Again, what we were saying earlier, I think when we're off there, when it cut off, is why they're saying so many people have the experimental treatment, because they want you to feel left out of the group, because they understand group psychology, right? So it's all this stuff that's kind of governing through.
Yeah, and funny that a lot of stuff there. That's interesting. I never thought about. I guess it's the Bible, for example. Talking about the lost books, let alone just interpretations of the modern one we've got.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it would make sense that obviously the Quran would have the same thing. And yeah, interesting.
Well, that's it. But you got to go back to, so I'm a very big fan on Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
One of my favorites, right? So you got to think what happened at the time. 2,500 years ago, China, they developed all these wisdom schools because they were starting to build up culture. They were starting to build up cities, and people need something to rally about, right?
Sure.
This is what we're losing
Sure.
now. That's why there's this culture war because
Yeah.
we're losing
Yeah.
this. So Lao Tzu